Okay, I think that's enough rambling. I'll now hand over to Peter, VK3 BFG, who will enlighten us on the subject of ATV. Welcome, Peter.
Right. Okay. Can we have the first slide up there, Luke, that I've got here on the yeah, just reflect on just where we are at the moment. And we've actually moved on from where we've been previously with presentations, and we see some faces here that are very familiar and I've heard some of this before. But yeah, we've sort of had a change in the sense that DVB-S, which is the satellite standard that we're all using, there really is only one option now for that. Suppliers of that have dried up, and therefore we've had to move across to the alternate, which is DVB-T. And in fact, the TV repeater will receive DVB-S, DVB-S2, and DVB-T, all of those. And I'm going to show you some cheap ways to get on TV. Well, it's never very exactly cheap. And then perhaps some more expensive, elegant ways to do that. All right, let's see where we're at here. And go through some of this pretty quick. They're the main channels that we're still using, and you've seen those before. Pretty much the four there, the 1246, 1255, 1278, 1287 are all active on RTV. If you live to the east of Mount View, which is the police academy, probably 1255 or 1246. If you live over in the western suburbs, like Ed there, he's definitely 1278. And if you live where Dave lives, over, sort of towards Moorabbinish way, well, 1287. 1287. So there's panel antennas that are facing in those directions. So they're all covered. We moved from standard definition to high definition, and that's basically where we're all at. 1080p. None of us have moved up to UHD, but there's probably not a good reason to do that. In a way, UHD is a bit of a sell. Sure, if you look at a static picture on UHD, on the UHD, it's absolutely fabulous, no doubt about that. But once you start moving, there's no difference between UHD and this. So we're probably going to stay on 1080p. So, if you want to save some bucks, don't bother buying a UHD one. They're very nice. They look terrific, but they're worth it. That's the TV repeater. Some of you have seen that before. The big heatsink there behind that's the 500 watt PA, which gave up the ghost. It was up at Olinda for probably about 10 years, and at Mount View for about 4. And about a couple of weeks ago, it just stopped working. And it's got a big double FET in it, which I managed to get out from a copper heat spreader, which incredible stuff. I hadn't mucked around with a heat spreader before, but this bit of copper's about that, by about that, by about that. And I stuck it on an oven, portable oven, and heated it up so that the solder melted so I could get the steel fat off. And I turned everything off, and I come back about an hour later, and the heat spreader was still hot. It was holding that temperature. So yeah, it was a fair bit of copper there. So unfortunately, that one's in the US at the moment for repair, and we're actually running on the exciter that drives that. And I pumped that up to 10 watts. So it's dribbling out at 10 watts. But tonight, when I went down to turn it on, it didn't work at all. So it's a little bit sick, and we'll deal with that. The PA should be back shortly. So anyway, we've got DVB-S and S2 and DVB-T and T2. that's the ports down system, which is still valid. It's based on a Raspberry Pi and nice little 7-inch touchscreen, and there's software that's updated regularly. And it's the British system, and it's capable of the whole lot, actually. It's capable of DVS, it's capable of DVB-T as well, and it's capable of narrowband as well. Now, we've just got a allocation on 6 metres, and on 52.25 with very narrowband but high quality TV, we're going to be transmitting on 6 metres as well. The UK guys transmit on 2 metres as well. So there's the block diagram of it. What's missing there now, the DATV Express is not there anymore. The Pluto is still there, and the Lime SDR is there. And the reason that we've sort of moved away from that one is that the new Lime SDR, those would know that suddenly the price of that skyrocketed. So it got very, very expensive, the Lime. I mean, it's a really nice little device, but that whole package suddenly doubled in price. But it's still really versatile. And all you need to do is go onto the British Amateur TV Club site and type in ports down. There's heaps of information about it. And there's regular software updates. The guy that is doing that, I mean, that's his hobby, and he's added all sorts of stuff. There's a little spectrum analyzer in it, and all sorts of toys. So it's a nice little thing. So the move to DVB-T has been significant, and I've got over here what is the cheapest option. So Luke, if you could bring up this one here. Can you bring this one up? There, oh, good. Okay. This is the cheapest way of going about stuff, because there's these modules that some of you would know about that make things fairly easy. That little device there is just a standard modulator that you get for domestic purposes. It puts out a signal on all of the normal TV bands. You can see there I've got 690.5. That's what's coming out of that, and we've just got a little bit of a relay system here. And sitting on top of there is a mixer module, which you can't see. Where is it? Oh, yes, you can. There it is there. Yep. Okay. And that's one straight from eBay. There's lots of these little devices around. That is the local oscillator down there. And again, that's an eBay job. And these 2 amps here are PHA ones from Minikits. And we've got a little bandpass filter here just to help after the mixer to get rid of some of the stuff that's there. Coming out of the mixer there is pretty ordinary. And I just simply use the flexible coax. So really, you need to be able to solder the little SMAs, but that's by far the cheapest TV transmitter, and it puts out high definition 1080p. I guess you're looking at maybe 300, 350 all up there for that. And that gives you a driver, and then you probably only need a few watts certainly if you live in the eastern suburbs around here to get to Mount View. Just maybe a little 10-watt amp after that is what you need. And if you're like me, I can actually get into the repeater just with the exciter. So that's the cheapest way around. And yeah, can we come back to the screen here? Yeah, well, there we are. 269 for that one. That's the heart of the thing. That's the TV modulator, of course. That's the block diagram of it, basically what you saw there. And that's a picture I took of it. So that's a really good way of getting on. Now there is a second way if you've got a deeper pocket, and Ed's just told me you've got to be a fair deeper pocket, but we'll have a look at that one. Okay, hopefully we can bring this one up. This is based around this little fellow. And there's two versions of this. There's a transmitter and there's a receiver, and they look exactly the same, just in that little box. But in that little box is a DVB-T high definition transmitter that will do 23 centimeters or go up to 2.4 gigs as well, and give enough drive out to go through a PHA-1. So that's a very elegant little solution, which I have set up here. This one's Ed's, and it was a bit of a shock to find out how much they are now. There's mine there, and I've got a little bit of RS-232 sort of connections, because you can talk to it with an RS-232 port and tell it to do all sorts of stuff, change the parameters. You can do everything with it. And I've just got a PHA-1 amp there, and that simply goes out again to the back. So I've got actually 4 different ATV transmitters, but they're all just exciters like that. And then the exciter just runs the same PA all the time, which is a bit more expensive. So that's our options really for DVB-T. The cheapest one being, using the domestic modulator and then just up converting with a mixer, and that works fine. In terms of receiving, there's a number of different set-top boxes, but you've got to be very careful that they manually tune, and not many do. And here's a few options for that. Certainly the Strongs do, and the Clearview one that I had up there before is still available from Crystal up in Queensland. They're nice little set-top boxes. You can manually tune them, and the repeater has to be active, otherwise it won't find it. So yeah, you've got to be able to contact someone to get a signal up. I forget how much they are. They're not all that much, not that very expensive.
Those Strongs are about 70.
Are they $70? Yeah. So that's the Clearview. That's still available from Crystal. And then there's the combos. The combos are interesting. That's what we've got up at Mount View. There's 4 of them, and they've got a satellite tuner in them and a domestic tuner both. So they'll tune domestically, and you can pick up DVB-T with it, but it also has a satellite tuner in it. And what we do up there is we poll between those 2 tuners. And so we're looking for, when it's on the domestic tuner, there's actually an up converter that goes with that to get up to 1.2 gigs. But we're looking at the domestic tuner for DVB-T, and we do that for maybe 10 seconds, and then it switches across and then looks at the satellite port, which is DVB-S or DVB-S2. So it's looking between those 2 ports, and that's because the whole thing's in the one box, and it's the one HDMI lead coming out from the end. So if you can switch the ports, you're fine. And what I do is I simply emulate the infrared using a little micro, and that's a little bit of surgery inside the box, where I open the box and cut the IR lead and insert a little pickaxe in there, which then responds to a code sent to it by the controller. And, it sends a 1, and okay, it goes to channel 1, sends a 2, it goes to channel 2, etc. So it's just polling between the 2. The disadvantage is that it takes a bit of time to just sometimes acquire a signal. You're thinking, oh, waiting, because it's polling. What have we got there? That is an excellent device, that one. I've got one of those. That one has also got a satellite tuner and domestic tuner, and it's about this big with a nice display on it. And it's portable, runs 12 volts. So I'm not sure how much they are now, but if you went on eBay and just put up those numbers, you'd get one. So they're pretty good. And then if you've got a deep pocket, you can buy one of these. And they've got a diversity antenna on them as well. So normally we just use people just use the antenna one, but it's got two antennas and enough smarts inside the little box there to be able to use that. So it's a nice little box. One of the advantages of the hides, and that's what those little black boxes are, is that it's Taiwan based, and the guys up there are fabulous. If you've got any questions, any problems, you just email them and they're back onto you straight away. There's a guy called Kelvin Yang, and there's another guy, forget his name, but both of those are really, really customer focused type people. So they're good, and the whole thing's a bit experimental as well. They send you an update, and oops, it doesn't work because they've made an error. But you email them back, and they say, "Oh yeah, we've just got a fix for that," and down comes the fix. So it's good stuff. It's well supported, and just a bit experimental. But if you take an earlier version of the software, then it's going to run. If you download the latest, well, sort of it might have a few bugs in it. But Kelvin will sort it out, that's for sure. And that's a little Hides dongle that you could get, which is one of those little plug-in USB things. So that's a little bit of a run through on the new options for TV, which is the DVB-T option. Still, DVB-S is the best option in terms of transmission. You've got about something like an 8 to 10 dB overhead with DVB-T. In other words, if you need 1 watt for S, you're going to need 10 for T. So there's that, roughly. It's about 8 dB actually. So there is that overhead. It's a broadcast standard, of course. But all the guys in South Australia certainly use it. That's all they use. But here in Melbourne, pretty much people are using S and S2 and even a digital light could work. Yeah. So that's about it that I had tonight. And I finished with Ian QL's station, as I've done before, which is really nice. And in fact, it's an improvement on what you're seeing there. It's bigger and better. And of course, Ian is a AV guy, and he's gone that way, but appears on the net every Tuesday night, and he's a very entertaining guy as well. So there we are. Short and sweet tonight.
Okay, so, sorry, open for questions. If you could just repeat the question, Peter, so that the Zoom can hear.
Oh, yeah, okay. Yeah.
Programs that you watch on the DVT repeater, like I think Clint does one on astronomy, but what activity is going on the repeater?
It's mainly people's other amateur activities. And just lately it's been with the MAD group. Some of you would be aware of that small group who are going out with their new IC whatevers and all the different SHF frequencies, and they're going out portable and doing some really good stuff. So we see a lot of the MAD stuff on there. We see Clint, of course. Clint, every Friday night he will be on with the astronomy show, and that's to be seen to believe what he gets together there. The Wireless Institute broadcast is on at 10 o'clock, I think, or 10:30 Sunday morning and 8 o'clock Sunday night. Clint puts that on. Plus, there's lots of other stuff. There's also people just mucking around and testing and all that. So, yeah. But it's a very, very active repeater, unlike some of the others. Yeah, but there's always something happening. Yes.
Yeah, that's really interesting. There's a lot of potential for all the bits and pieces out there, I guess, on the interweb to put all this together. Is there any, like a website, a resource that you recommend that has a lot of these things that we've talked about tonight, or anything you could suggest to take a look at? Or
there's the British Amateur TV Club website, which certainly has a wiki that's associated with it. And there's also chat rooms also associated with the British Amateur TV Club. There's a guy in Boulder, Colorado, who puts out a newsletter, K86. Ed, what's his cool time? Can't remember. If you just Google Boulder ATV, you'd get him. Jim Andrews is his name, and he puts out a newsletter. How can I put it? Oh, look, sometimes it's weekly, sometimes it's monthly. He puts out stuff whenever he's got enough material, and often he has a lot. And he's just done for example, he's just done a survey of a whole lot of antennas in terms of what their actual gain is, and all their specs that might be appropriate for ATV, but is appropriate for anyone. So, it's Jim Andrews, KH6, somebody or other. But if you just Google Boulder Amateur TV Group, you get him, for sure. Okay. Thanks, guys. Well done.
All right. Thank you, Peter, for a very entertaining session. I think everyone found it quite an informative session, and you never know, you might have a couple of new operators sticking their hands up.
Well, Ed's on the way.
Very good, very good. Shame we couldn't get the ATV up tonight, but all being well, we should be able to get the recording happening, and no doubt Peter or another ATV operator will be able to put that up for the ATV community.
Sure.
Thanks to Harry for manning the camera tonight, a stand-in. On behalf of the club, thank you for coming on, giving us a chop out tonight, mate. Well done. And Grant, ably supervised by Luke, familiarising himself with the
well done.
the AV desk, getting this interfacing and the art of video and audio, etc., happening. So thanks, Grant, for sticking your hand up. Much appreciated.